Hold up.
Hi guys, it's me Talia with the Sassy Nation, and I'm going to talk to you today about my journey and experience with ayahuasca. So, I'm here in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Many of you who follow my videos or follow me on social know that I live here part time and come back and forth here from the States pretty often. Um, so this time around, I came down to Playa, to the Riviera Maya for a retreat that I hosted with a friend of mine who is also a holistic coach in the States and here in Playa. And we put together this small retreat for a select group of women. And so I was here in town to help deliver the retreat, and it was beautiful. It went amazing. We actually have made a separate video to kind of recap, so I won't go into the details here, but just sharing a little bit of it or about it with you, to let you know like how it helped me to prepare for my ayahuasca journey. So at the retreat, we only served and offered the women vegan foods. I am a pescatarian with, I don't know what to say. I'm a pescatarian, and I have decided or intended that I want to move to a more plant-based diet. So, coming here to the retreat, that was perfect timing because all we ate was like vegetables, fruit, everything was very fresh. And that's one of the things that you need to be mindful of is your diet if you're planning to do ayahuasca or take the medicine. You want to eat as clean as possible. There's a lot of things on the list that you cannot have. Dairy is one of them. Fish and seafood is another. Shellfish, particularly. No caffeine. No processed sugar. No salt, or very little. No spicy foods. Many other things. Okay. No meat, of course. No meat. Just a very clean diet is what is recommended if you're going to take the medicine. And I knew this going into it, but I don't think I was super mindful of it. I just knew, okay, I'm going to do ayahuasca, and I eat pretty clean anyway, so I wasn't super concerned about that. As it got closer to the date, though, I, when it actually looked at the list again and was like, oh, well, dang, I had some tea the other day, it had caffeine in it, but for the most part, I pretty much followed the dieta is what it's called, pretty closely, just because of my lifestyle and the way that I eat anyway. So, let's see, a couple days before, I was having issues with my gut. Like, I made a previous video talking about how if you come to Mexico, it's very likely that you're gonna get like a stomach virus. Like, it's not uncommon. I've had it. Everybody I know has had it. Recently, how it's started to manifest in my life, when I do get it now, is I get real bad indigestion and less of like the other symptoms. And so after the retreat, I felt like my body was like cleansing itself because I did get a little bout of it. And so I was being very finicky about eating. And so I would say about 36 hours prior, 48 to 36 hours prior, I was doing like this intermittent, how do you say the word? Intermittent fasting. And I would eat a little and then just have like liquids. Coconut water, for example, is really good if you're having stomach issues. And so I was just doing that. And by the time the ceremony came, I hadn't eaten a solid meal in probably 12 18 hours or something like that. And even the meal prior to that was not even a full meal. It was like seeds. What else did I have that morning? I think I had some tea, water, coconut water, stuff like that. It was very, very light. So there wasn't really much in my stomach, you know, once I got to the location. But this was something that was interesting to me, because when I get hungry, and I was feeling hungry at some point, my stomach gets really aggressive. Like, it growls very aggressively. And that just never happened, you know, the whole time that we were there. Even before the actual ceremonies had taken place, it had been some time since I had eaten, but I was not feeling like ravish, you know. So anyways, maybe it was nerves, I don't know, but I felt really calm, like, once I got there. I'll cut in some footage also so that you can kind of see the setup.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes you stand up if you're busy to go to the bathroom. Never stand up quickly.
So it's almost time to start. I've been fasting all day. I'm a little nervous, but also excited. So I'm going to sign off and I'll log back on in the morning, let you know how it went. So anyways, the location was in the jungle, and this, I don't know if it's a city or neighborhood, but it's called Akumal. And Akumal is known as like a place where you can go to the beach and see the sea turtles, swim with the turtles. We weren't near the water, as far as I can tell. We were just like in the jungle, in the bush. So we drive back there, we pull up, and it's at like this kind of yoga sanctuary, I feel like. And they had these traditional looking homes. They were like circular shaped with the thatched roof and like fully screened all around the windows. And then the bottom half of it was like, you know, the material that they made the building with. Very traditional looking. So we get there, and it's probably about, I would say we left here about 6. So we probably got there about 6:30, 6:40. And people were still just arriving and, you know, pulling out their stuff. There was a handful of people already there. Of course, the shaman and his co-facilitator, she was there already. So we got to meet them. And we got there at the same time that the musicians were pulling up. And so we came inside, took off our shoes, came in and like laid out our stuff. Now this is one of the things I'm gonna make another video about, to just kind of let people know who are interested, like how to prepare, like what to bring, because I only brought the basics. I brought what I was, you know, suggested to bring, but I could have like had a lot more stuff, you know, to help me be more comfortable, because you are laying essentially on the floor. Anyways, I went with my neighbor, and she brought a lot of the things that we essentially use, like pillows and, you know, it's kind of a, not a tarp, but like a water resistant maybe cover for us to lay on. And then they have pillows and blankets there, but I'm a weirdo, like I don't like using other people's bedding, linen, stuff like that. But we did use some of it, but we were able to cover it with like the cover that she provided. This one guy who pulled up, he pulled out a whole blow-up mattress, okay? So he had clearly defined space. Somebody else, you know, lots of people had yoga mats. Somebody else had like a thin foam thing that he laid on. And so for me, I'll just keep it in mind, you know, if I ever want to do it again, or when I do it again, you know, just what to bring. So anyways, maximum comfort, that's what you're going for, because you're going to be laying down like most of the time. and on the floor, like for the upwards of, 8 to 12 hours. So let's see. We got there, we got set up, and we waited for a good long while. It was just very quiet. Most people were like meditating. We waited. I think the ceremony probably started around 8:30, and it seemed that we were waiting for someone because somebody's abuelita, 84-year-old woman, came like right before we started, and like as soon as she got there and got in her seat, they had like a whole camping chair or something for her to like sit up on. She wouldn't have to be on the floor, she'd be comfortable. As soon as she got there, we got started. Like they immediately, started the ceremony. And basically the facilitators went through, and the shaman went through, like the shaman spoke in Spanish, and the facilitator or his partner translated for us English speakers. And she just talked about sort of the, not expectations, but just like laid out like how the process was going to work. Like first we're going to, do this, and then we're going to do that. Just the basic layout of the ceremony. Let me see. So yeah, they just kind of talk you through each step so that, it's very clear, like the flow of it, what it's going to be. And one of the first things that they did was they came around in a circle and like blew tobacco like in your crown chakra that is supposed to open up your crown chakra to help you to be able to receive the medicine. It's getting sunny on the patio. So they did the tobacco thing, and then what else? Okay. And then we spoke our intention, like what brought us here. We spoke our name and our intention, what brought us here. And for me, I was just kind of like, I'm here just to be open and to receive whatever the medicine wants to give me and to tell me, and to just be open about it. That was my intention. So as soon as, we got halfway around the circle, or no, everybody set their intention, and then one by one, we got up and went to the altar that they had set up, and drank the ayahuasca. Now, there was one part before that, let me see, where they have this powdery stuff. It looks like almost like a matcha tea, but darker color. I can't remember what it's called. I'll put an overlay on the title later. But you sniff it basically, and the shaman administered it. The people I was with, they had some, but I didn't take it because I was like, I just want to feel the effects of the ayahuasca first, so I will know, like, as a baseline, this is what it's like. I didn't want any additives to it. So people had the opportunity to go and like inhale this powdery stuff that's supposed to enhance your experience or help you get there faster or something like that. But I opted out of that. I just wanted like a pure ayahuasca experience. So yeah, we went around, we set our intentions, and immediately after we each took turns, we went up and like drank the ayahuasca. And the taste, like a lot of people say, how terrible, how gross it is. I didn't find it to be terribly offensive. It was it tasted to me like a mixture, like a prune juice tobacco infusion. Like it tasted strongly like prune juice, but I could also taste like a hint of tobacco in it. or like a smoky characteristic, if not tobacco. I liken it to like, if you drink mate, like I'm a yerba mate drinker. If you drink mate plain, you can tell like there's a hint of like smokiness to it. And the ayahuasca definitely had that flavor profile. So I didn't gag or anything. I was able to like drink it down really quickly. I was actually pleasantly surprised that it wasn't as terrible as people made it seem. And then I went and got back on my mat and waited basically about, it took maybe 20 to 30 minutes for it to kick in. And what can I say about that? Definitely, you know, once you take it and the music gets going, like they play these ceremonial instruments that basically, to me, it felt like help activate, you know, the medicine basically. And I did purge right when it felt like I was becoming like open, I guess, to the medicine. I felt the need to purge. This is important. So my neighbor who went with me, she was like, you know, once you take it, try to sit up for as long as you can, upright, so that it can like get through your system, you know, relatively easily and quickly. You don't want to purge too soon, because you're basically just like regurgitating the medicine. And so yeah, it stayed in my system, you know, a good long while before I had to purge. And one of the things that I was concerned about was like, well, I didn't eat a whole lot, and I felt like the fasting like really worked in my benefit, because I heard people purging like all throughout the ceremony, like even towards the end. But these are maybe people, maybe they had more than one dose. I only took one dose for me. So when I did finally look in the bucket, like the next morning, it was only the ayahuasca in there. Like, now keep in mind, I didn't have a bunch of other stuff on my stomach either. So there was nothing else really to come out. And one of the things that they say is like, you can purge either, you know, orally, or it might come out the other end. And that was something that I was super concerned about, because I had been having these gastrointestinal issues, you know, before the ceremony. And I ended up not having to go to the bathroom really at all until I got back home. Like, I went once to urinate, and then while I was out there, I was feeling a little woozy, so I did purge again, but it was not as like forceful as the first time. The first time it was like even though it was only a little bit, it was like I was holding onto the bucket for like dear life, like with my mouth on, my literal mouth on the bucket, like I didn't even care. Because it's just I don't want to say like forceful, but like a deep purge, like strong, okay? It's the only way I can think to describe it. So anyways, about the journey. Basically, once the music got going, the first thing I remember seeing was like sand moving, like vibrating, you know, white sand. And then some sacred geometry shapes started to appear, just like floating here and there. Not like a crazy amount of colors. Like the shapes themselves were different colors, but it wasn't like overwhelming. And then at that point I had to lay down, so I was like curled up in the fetal position, and the moon was also out, and I could see it through the screen that was behind me. And it almost felt like I could see myself like laying in the fetal position. My eyes were closed though. And then I heard somebody calling me. They were saying, sister, come here, sister. And I opened my eyes, but not like these, but like my third eye, I think. And I could see there was like a little encampment, and I could just see like silhouettes. And I also saw a wolf. And it was like a band of natives. It was like 4 of them, 3 or 4 of them. I really think it was 4. And they were like, you know, come sit with us. And they explained to me that they were my brothers. And they were like, you know, we know you must be tired. You can put down your shield and your spear now. And I just started crying. Like I felt so relieved to just be able to like just drop everything, you know? And so then they just started explaining to me about who they were and about how they had, you know, been with me for my whole life, and that they were always with me, and that they were had been trying to communicate with me for a while now. And we sat and had a good long talk. I asked them a lot of questions about different things, mostly like family stuff, and just about how I was doing in life. And they basically told me, you know, how proud they were of me, and how proud my ancestors were, and that I was bringing honor to our family name, and on and on and on. So that made me feel like really good to hear, because I think in a lot of ways you know, we all want that validation, right? That we're doing good work in this lifetime, I think, in the work that we're supposed to do. And they kind of explained to me that, you know, all of us together, like I'm a part of them, what they are, and that because I was kind of looking around like, well, where are the other ancestors? I fully expected them to show up because I've been doing a lot of ancestor work. And I'm like, well, if they're brothers, if they are my brothers, I guess in a way they are still like ancestors because they're not like physically present, but I got more of like they're my spirit guides, right? And my spirit animal, I was told, is the wolf, like theirs. And they also explained to me that there are other people in my family who share the same spirit animal. Well, not the same one, but their own spirit animal, who are also wolves. That's just like my family lineage, they explained. So let me see, I'm trying to decipher like how much I want to share, because I asked a lot of really kind of personal questions, they were very patient. I was very emotional, crying and laughing at the same time. But like just like a really deep soul cry and soul laughter. Like I had never felt either emotion so intensely, and for it to be happening both at the same time was very I've never experienced anything like it. So my spirit guides about them, like I said, they were all native. Like they all had like long black hair. I could really just kind of see silhouettes and then just like glimmers of faces, but not like a face that I recognized. Just like very traditionally native looking, you know. And they just kept saying like, you know, you're safe here. You're always safe because we're always protecting you. We're always with you. No matter what, like even if you can't see us, we're always here. I did ask them, because I had been doing a lot of ancestor work, I asked them, you know, well, like, what can I do to like honor you, or like, how do I call on you when I need you? And they were like, you know, it's nice that you do the ancestor work, but it's not necessary for us because we're never apart. We're always together. So that was very comforting. And even in the experience, I think I recognized like at some point the scenery was gonna change. Like I couldn't just stay with them the whole time. Like I had to see other things as well. So I just remember telling them like, I'm not ready for you to leave yet, like please stay. And they were like, it's okay, like it's okay, we're not going anywhere, you know. What else can I say about them? They're funny dudes. They're hella funny. Similar to my own family dynamic, which my family plays the dozens. And if you don't know what that means, basically they're like jokesters. They're like always joking with you, poking fun and things like that. And this was no different. I was complaining, not complaining, but I made a comment of like somebody in my family who I don't always get along with. I was like, yeah, man, they're such a brat. And they were like, and you're not? And so they have very funny personalities. One of the things that came up that I asked them about was like, or I mentioned like my diet and wanting to eat more clean and more plant-based. And one of the brothers, he was spearfishing at the time, like just a lake or something appeared and I could see him like piercing a fish, and he was like, yeah, I don't know why you would want to do that, but have at it, basically. Which to me, I took to mean that our family, you know, we're hunters and gatherers, and fishing is like a part of our diet, or it has been a part of our native diet forever, you know. And so it let me know like it's okay if you want to still have fish. One of the other brothers, so there was 4 of them, and they were all taking turns talking. They weren't like talking over each other. So when he made that comment about the fish, another brother chimed in. He was like, that's fine. He was like, and they kept calling me sister, and after we had this one conversation, they start calling me little big sister, because they were like, you know, you've grown up. Like, you're not a little cub or a little pup anymore. You know, you're a fearless, strong wolf now. So they started calling me Big Little Sister. And when he made the comment about, you know, me not eating fish, and he was like, as he was like spearing the fish, like, well, I'm about to eat some fish. The other brother was like, you know, it's okay, big sister. You got to do what's right for you, you know, and if that feels right, then it is right. One of the things that struck me was they clarified, I think, a lot of stuff for me, like a lot of questions that I had. But in talking to them about future things, it seemed like they were a little reluctant to give me like specific directions, like do this, do that. It wasn't like that. It was kind of like if that's what you want, you know, that's what you should do type of thing. And even later on, once I had moved on from that situation and I felt like my higher self was speaking to me, which was in a woman's voice, and it was one voice, I was asking her even about different stuff, and she was more or less giving me encouragement and her thoughts about what I was doing, and it was all positive. It was like, you know, but it wasn't directive, like do this, do this, do that. No, and one thing that she made very clear, I know I'm switching, moving around, but she made it very clear that you create your own reality. So a lot of the thoughts that I currently already have, or a lot of my beliefs, it was just like a reinforcement of those beliefs about the ability to create the life that we want, about the power of like manifesting, about how things occur on vibration, and that everything is a vibration, and about being able to have whatever you want, you know. So and it was just like they were constantly reminding me of things that I already thought or felt. And the switch was, it's like a now I know it. Like, in some ways, some of these things, concepts before were like theory, even though I had practiced with it and had tested the theory, and I know I felt, you know, I got results using these theories. But to hear it coming from these sources, my higher consciousness, my spirit guides, it's solidified in me a knowing now. Like, it's not even, there's no doubt anymore about anything. So that's one of the main things I feel like has shifted in me. What else can I say? The music that they played, I felt was like super powerful. And every time it peaked, it felt like, or really got going, you could feel like a shifting happening. I think that in some ways my conscious mind was like peeking in on what was happening. Most of what was going on was taking place in the unconscious, but conscious realities were like not interrupting, but just kind of seeping in a little, because some like pop culture symbols popped up into my mind, artists that are current, images even, but those things were happening like during these moments where the sand, because I just kept seeing like sand like shifting, and I remember the shaman's assistant saying at the beginning to just like, if you get in any uncomfortable spaces or start seeing uncomfortable things or feeling uncomfortable, to just breathe through it. Like your breath is really gonna help you like move, keep moving, right? What else? Yeah. One of the things that stood out to me, like the time I spent with my brothers was most vivid, because it was visual. The time I spent talking with my higher consciousness, it was all just here, like here and here. There was no image, there was just a voice, a really soft, soothing voice. But the time I spent with my brothers, we were in, it looked like the desert, but not a desert that I was familiar with, because the sand looked super white, I remember. And the moon at the time, that day, was like, had just finished being full, so it was like in the waning phase, but still very bright. And we were sitting under a similar moon, and so there was nothing around, so it was just the light of the moon and us sitting, and white sand, but everything else, it had like the tint, the bluish hue of like the moon on us. And I just remember like all these times in my life where I've spent so many moons just doing exactly that. Sitting under the moon, gazing, thinking, and being with them in that moment. And now I realize why I do that, you know? Like habitually, ritually, like always. And I think it's always been to commune with them even before I knew who they were, or I just always felt drawn to do that. And now I understand why. It was so that we could be together, or they could be with me, which they always are, but like that's like a peaceful time, I guess, for us, because it was made very clear to me that like we are warriors, which is why we're kind of like separate from the rest of the clan, and that why I feel alone a lot. Not lonely, but alone, like walking a path alone. And they just reassured me, like, you're not, there's just not many of us, because we're the pathfinders. We're like the way makers. We're making the path for those behind us, you know, and clearing the way and making sure that it's safe. So it's like we're like out ahead of everybody else, you know, clearing the path. And so apparently I think like our moon time when we're sitting, you know, together, is sacred. It feels like and I think that's why I already had that habit of doing that. So that's pretty much all I have to share for now. I went into a little bit more detail than I thought I was going to want to do. Maybe it'll make it into the final cut, maybe it won't, I don't know. Some of the changes right off I noticed like afterwards is when we left in the morning, it wasn't super hot, but it was getting hot. I could feel outside. And I noticed like right away, like I'm already sensitive to light, like bright light. This is why I always wear sunglasses. And you see me in pictures wearing sunglasses, not just to be cool, but like I have a light sensitivity. It felt like that times 10. And the heat also. Like I normally don't mind the heat, but I don't know. It might have been a combination of the fact that I was exhausted. I made a, you know, quick Instagram story that, you know, I was exhausted, but I felt energized, but I also felt really exhausted. So that was one of the things that I noticed. So I stayed in the house all day yesterday. I was up for a few hours, even though I hadn't really slept the night before during the ceremony. Like you have the opportunity to sleep, but I don't feel like I really slept. Maybe just like napped here and there because it was hard to get comfortable because of the space that I had. And I remember telling my neighbor, like, I need more space. And she was like, there's not gonna be more space because there's many more people who are coming. So but at the end of it, ironically, like everybody who was like the two people who were on the side of me had like moved over because I heard my spirit guide telling me like, don't be afraid to take up space. And then I just like spread out and the people around me moved to accommodate that, you know? And I felt like that was a metaphor also for life. Like, don't be afraid to take up space, to show yourself, to be visible, to be seen, to be heard, you know, all of those things. So, other things that I noticed like last night, and I'm gonna do a separate video about this too, just the integration part, you know, that part I wasn't as aware of. I did watch a couple of videos, you know, people were talking about their experience afterwards and being very sensitive to like sound and things like that. And I purposely waited till the evening to go out yesterday to go get food. And I was thinking, I'm gonna just run out real quick, get on the bike, get my food, come back. The sounds were so loud and so intense, and the smells from like people cooking like in the restaurants, it was overwhelming. Oh my God. Like when I was going home, this truck was passing me by and he had to like go over this speed hump, and I was holding on to the bike. And when he went over the speed hump, because he had like all of this, I don't know, metal chains or something like on the back of his truck, so it was really loud. So it made me turn and like, you know, look at it, and I felt like energetically like it like if I wasn't holding onto the bike, it probably would have pushed me over. Like I just felt the energy from the truck hitting that speed bump. It just whoosh, like all over me. So that was crazy. So yeah, I'll make another video a few more videos actually, and I'm sure they'll be like more clear because I feel like I'm just kind of all over the place right now. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, of course you can reach out to me, leave me a comment, message me on social at the Sassy Nation. I'll put a little tag thing there. But yeah guys, that was pretty much it. That was my experience. I know I'm leaving, I feel like a lot of stuff out, but it's just so much to tell and to know. It's just kind of difficult to like get it all out, which is the reason why I'm gonna make some other videos, and they'll be more structured. This was just kind of like me talking through some things with you guys. Okay, so yeah, if you have questions, let me know. I'm around. Thanks for listening. Bye guys.